When you picture what it's like to live in Cleveland, Tennessee, I bet that you're not picturing the paperwork or the interest rates. You're picturing the weekends, where you'll walk the dog, where the family ends up on a Saturday afternoon, and whether there's actually somewhere to just be outside and enjoy all the beautiful things that this area has to offer. And there's something about this city that surprised even me when I moved here. It's not just the downtown or the history or having everything that you need right close by. It's how seriously Cleveland takes its parks. 16 public parks that the city maintains for a town this size. So today, we're going to check out 5 of my favorites, and we'll learn what they each tell you about the value of the home that you put your money into, because here's the thing. Any city can build parks and have ribbon-cutting ceremonies. That's the easy part. The hard part is whether they keep showing up for them, maintaining them, rebuilding them, putting real money into the parks year after year when nobody's forcing them to. That's the tell. And there's a difference between a city that's coasting and a city that's betting on itself. And it tends to show up eventually in what the homes there are worth and how they hold their value. I'm Chris Roberts, your Southeast Tennessee relocation realtor, and I help people every week make the move to Cleveland and Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I moved here from Maine, where we had gorgeous parks, and this is the kind of thing that I take note of. The way that Cleveland treats its parks was not something that I expected. In just a minute, we're going to get to one detail about some of these parks that still has me shaking my head wondering why. And if you're wanting to talk through how you can make this part of Tennessee your home, my number is going to be right here on the screen in front of you. Call or text me anytime. All right, let's start with Tinsley Park right off of Keith Street, because if you want proof that the city is reinvesting, Tinsley is Exhibit A. And this really is, in my mind, the centerpiece of Cleveland's parks, not just as a figure of speech. The Cleveland Greenway runs more than 4 miles north to south right through the city, and Tinsley Park is mile 1. It serves as the anchor. It's the recreational hub for the whole Greenway. So when I call it a centerpiece, it's not just me being generous. That's where the map points. Over the last 2 years, they've basically tore down and rebuilt the whole thing. Brand new pickleball courts, refreshed dog parks, a brand new pavilion, all of it tied straight into the Greenway so that you can walk right out of the park and keep going for miles. Now, this wasn't just a fresh coat of paint. This was a city looking at its most used park and saying, we're going to make this better. And here's what that actually means for you. When a city spends real money rebuilding its centerpiece park, not a struggling one, but a good one, that's a budget decision. That's a priority. Cities that are quietly declining, they don't do that. They let the good stuff coast and nobody notices. Cleveland, it did the opposite. Now, full disclosure, I don't actually use most of what's here. I don't play pickleball, I don't swim in a pool or play on the tennis course. I stopped doing a lot of sports when I was a kid after I started placing in honors music and state festivals, and I was just scared of getting hurt and not being able to perform music again. But what I do is walk and take in the scenery. Megan and I take Lola and Hazel out on the Greenway right from here, but even I got stopped by the pickleball courts. I knew that this was a sport gaining popularity, but I didn't have any idea that it was such a huge thing for people living right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. And that's the whole point of a centerpiece park. Tinsley isn't the heart of this system because everybody does exactly the same thing here. It's the heart because it's all happening all at the same time. You might see a retiree walking the Greenway, a family at the pool, the pickleball crowd out in force, and then this guy who hasn't picked up anything but drumsticks in 30 years walking his dogs. A park that holds that many different lives at the same time is the one that holds a community together. And a city that builds that isn't investing in just one slice of its people, it's investing in all of them. That's the kind of place where people stay. And places where people stay are places where your home will hold its value. Number 2 is one that I'd honestly almost forgotten about until I drove past it the other night on our way to Santorini Spoon downtown for some frozen yogurt, and it was packed. This is Deer Park. Deer Park sits over by 17th Street, right in the middle of this absolutely breathtaking historic neighborhood close to downtown and Lee University. And I want to start with the neighborhood for a second because it matters. The homes around here are gorgeous and they don't come up for sale super often. It's an incredibly pretty area to walk around, and that scarcity isn't an accident. A beautiful old neighborhood wrapped around a park people actually use is the kind of place that nobody wants to leave. And when nobody wants to leave, Homes don't sit on the market. They hold their value because demand outruns the supply. That sums up this whole point, and you can see it with your own eyes just driving through. Now, the park itself, for a neighborhood park, it punches way above its weight. There's a 100-foot zip line, a treehouse, a creek that's shallow enough for kids to wade in, a huge pavilion where people host all sorts of get-togethers, and it got updated recently, and you can tell because it's the kind of place that families pack into on a normal weeknight. Which is the whole point again. The parks people actually frequent are the ones doing their job. All right, next is Fletcher Park over by Laurel Ridge, and this area's got some really lovely homes too, which is not a coincidence. But first, the disc golf. Fletcher's got this huge disc golf course, and growing up on Mount Desert Island in Maine, I think we had one course up in Trenton, if I'm remembering right. And that was it. Then I moved down here, and disc golf is everywhere. People are really serious about it. And it's one of those things that you don't find out until you actually live somewhere. And Fletcher Park is way bigger than people realize. Wonderful walking trail, a little gazebo that's tucked in off that main area that feels almost hidden, and it's just a great place to take the dogs and slow down. Fletcher Park is a 70-acre nature park with anywhere from 2 to 5 miles of walking trails, depending on if you take every little offshoot of the trail. It's got a 100-year-old spring house, an ADA accessible fishing pond with a boardwalk and observation walkway, and even an amphitheater. Way more than just disc golf if you want to flex its size. A well-kept park raises the floor on the whole neighborhood around it. Proximity to maintained green space is something that buyers price in even when they don't say it out loud. When you're driving through, seeing the trails, the families out, and the neighborhood just feeling like a place people take care of, that feeling shows up in the value the homes hold. So when you see a home in the vicinity of a park like Fletcher, that's not just a nice view. That's also a little insulation on your investment. Now let's head downtown to Johnston Park. Johnston's a little different because it's like the living room of downtown Cleveland. They've got music playing through these speakers that are built right into the ground. And when there's a festival, they just had the Honeybee Festival down here. The whole place fills up. During the holidays, they decorate it like crazy too, and the tree lighting happens right down the road. But what I love most is what it connects to. You can sit in Johnston Park with a book and watch the cars go by, and when you're ready, just walk. Grab an ice cream at Mexi Botana's, or head down to Hedrick's for a burger, or over to Ruddle's Bread and Book for a coffee. The park isn't necessarily the destination, it's a piece of your ordinary Tuesday, and that's the point. A downtown park that people weave into their daily life is what makes a downtown sticky. It gives people a reason to be there that isn't just for spending money, though there are a ton of places downtown that I do like to spend money. And downtowns where people actually linger tend to be the ones that stay healthy and keep the property around them desirable. A downtown that empties out at 5 p.m. is kind of a warning sign. But a downtown with a living room right in the middle, totally the opposite. And just a quick note, because I'm not here to oversell this, don't buy a house just for the park. A great park nearby is a perk, not a reason. Parks are a signal, a piece of evidence, not necessarily the whole case. What we're seeing in Cleveland is a pattern. One nice park doesn't make a city. 5 parks, either brand new or completely updated in the last couple of years, and a city that's still building more? That's not luck. That's a city that has decided on purpose to keep investing in itself. And that's the thing that I'd actually stake a recommendation on. Not necessarily the pickleball courts, but the pattern. Which brings me to the last one, and I saved it on purpose, and it's the Jim Sharp Park. I drive past this every time that I drop my dog Hazel off at daycare at Uptown Hound, and I've watched the whole thing get built. It opened just recently here in 2026, and it's beautiful. A big green roof pavilion, a stocked pond that you could actually fish in-ground trampolines set right into the turf, and across the street is Candy's Creek extension of the Greenway, so you can just keep on going. But here's the thing about Jim Sharp that I absolutely love. It's Cleveland's first ADA-compliant park. And I don't mean that it's just a ramp bolted on as an afterthought. I mean, it was built that way from the ground up. The AstroTurf is so squishy that you almost sink in, soft enough to fall on and smooth enough to roll a wheelchair straight across. The trampolines that sit flush with the ground have no edge to climb over, and there's this zip line type of ride with a big chair that a kid can actually be strapped into and ride. So the child who's normally parked off to the side watching everybody else have fun they're on the zip line. And here's a detail that I also love being in the business that I'm in. The park's named after Jim Sharp, a local real estate developer who helped shape this whole part of Bradley County. A friend of his donated the land to build it in his honor. So the city isn't just checking a box. It's a community taking land that's meant for something and turning it into a park where every single kid can play. And that is the kind of place that holds its value, because it's the kind of place that people don't want to leave. They plant their roots and they stay. And the demand to stay somewhere is, in the end, what value really is. A city that builds for the child that others might forget is a city that's building for the long haul. And that's the whole story, standing right there in one playground. So 5 parks: Tinsley, Deer Park, Fletcher, Johnston, and Jim Sharp. Each one I genuinely love, and each one is telling you the same quiet thing. It's in a city that's betting on itself. And if you want help figuring out where in all of this your home actually lives, what neighborhood, what budget, what life you're trying to build, that's what I do. My free relocation guide is linked right below. It's got healthcare, schools, neighborhoods, all some really good stuff. And when you're ready to talk it through, my phone number is going to be right there on the screen in front of you, or you can schedule a call through the link in the description, and we can talk about how you can live your best life right here in Southeast Tennessee.